Hey, Disturbed listeners, Vanderpump Rules. Let's watch.
You seem like you're in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Why?
I think it's important to me to tell the truth. I think that I've been lying and being so deceitful this entire time that I don't want to lie anymore. And
interesting. So I'm going to make a prediction, just a little guess based on what she's saying and based on a typical situation like this, that she is wanting to relieve herself of the guilt of continuing to lie about the affair and the extent of it, that she and Tom, or maybe it was unspoken or maybe it was literally agreed upon, and maybe she felt kind of bulldozed by the situation, and Tom's like, look, we can't tell the full story of our affair. We have to minimize it. That's very normal that people will do that, and I would say almost universal and not helpful. So I'm guessing she's going to say our affair was a lot longer than that or a lot more extensive than that. But I don't know. Let's see what happens.
it's all out there anyway. Like, the worst is out. Yet I'm still finding myself having to lie about specific timeline things.
Lala, we weren't fucking first and foremost.
It doesn't matter if it was one time or 100
Yes,
times.
it does, actually,
You crossed
Lala.
the fucking
Actually
line.
does.
You crossed the goddamn line.
Yeah, and I won't bore you with yammering about this again, but I'll just remind that when I help couples to recover from infidelity and to repair their relationship, if they're interested in that, couples will come to me to do that. The cheater will almost always, if not always, minimize and only tell what they feel like they have to tell. But universally, when they do that, eventually they have to tell more, or they feel guilty and they want to reveal the full story, or they can't keep their lies straight and it comes forward somehow. And that is even more destructive, right? It just adds to the destruction. And it's not just like, well, I've already lied 1,000 times. What's another lie? Post-recovery, the idea is that you are now coming clean. You're now trying to rebuild trust. And to lie after it's been revealed, on average, is a lot more destructive than when you just look at an individual lie among thousands of lies that went on for 8 months. And I will tell the cheating person this whole thing, and I'll say, so your two viable options are tell the truth or say, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I don't want to get into that yet. I will later, but not now. Don't lie, though. Do not lie. It doesn't help anyone. And almost always, if not always, the cheater will continue to lie. Sometimes I can help them to minimize that a little bit. I think we're seeing that. And I wonder if Raquel wanted to participate in these lies herself, or, I mean, she clearly made that choice, but maybe Tom just convinced, because you imagine Tom might be kind of a mentor. It's like, look, I've been on the show longer, I'm older, I know what's happening. And she's like, okay, I guess I'll do that. And good on her for, I mean, who knows what the motivation, maybe she just wants to throw Tom under the bus or something. But if I'm reading it right, I think she has a legit sense of right and wrong. She has a legit sense of remorse. She has a normal set of morality impulses, and she is, racked with guilt. She's like, I just can't, I need to, and she just said, it's already out there anyway, so what's the difference? Why lie? Why continue to lie? And what if it comes out and I'm accused of lying? No, I'm going to wipe the slate clean of all the lies. Here you go.
I mean, you did maintain some untruths, some lies at the reunion, right? Why did you do that?
He feels like it would be less hurtful to say that, this wasn't going on.
Yeah, and I'll hear that from cheaters. And, there's some truthfulness to that. There's some logic to that. It's also incredibly self-serving, right? Because the cheaters often believe, well, whatever led to the cheating in the first place is often still at play during recovery, especially if they're not in therapy around this. Like Tom, I don't believe is specifically, or at least he's not in an accelerated program of therapy. So that state of like selfishness and impulse to lie and, when in doubt, lie, and also this self-serving justification denial system is still in play. And so they're like, well, I don't. Then they'll say this even while they're cheating, before they get caught. They're like, well, it'll really. And I think he might have even had that justification because he's indicates that, well, she's depressed or she's suicidal or he perceives it that way or invents that or something. And it's still at play post being discovered, right? It's like, well, it's best that I don't tell them, and it's just. Again, there's some logic to it, right? Like if you cheated for a year, but you can get away with saying it was only for a month, that might make it less painful to your partner. But like I said, it almost always comes out, or your guilt will take over and you'll say something or you'll forget. And it's just better to rip the Band-Aid off completely.
Like asking which direction the elevator was. And I was like, wait, just come inside. I was like, sorry, sir. Like, he's really drunk. Yeah, that was the second time that we were physical intimate with each other.
Did you guys have sex multiple times in Mexico?
Yeah.
So y'all probably know the circumstance. Was Ariana there? Either way, this is a different story than what they were saying before. And it sounds like, was this before or after the first time they claimed they had sex? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's just additional lies, and she's smiling while she's saying it, which isn't great. I think she's uncomfortable. I think she's embarrassed about it. Also, there might be some kind of adolescentness about like, ooh, we had sex, and she has a hard time talking in a mature adult way about sexual histories or something that happens to people, discomfort, whatever. But it's not a good PR move anyway to be talking as if it's like, oh yeah, I dated this guy and we had sex in Mexico, instead of realizing like when people see this, and especially Ariana, this is going to be massively concerning and hurtful. So I have to exhibit that I get that, at least maybe.
So it was like a regular ongoing thing between you two, sounds like, as of Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't remember like how often it would happen, but it definitely like picked up speed.
And I'll also say I'm not on board with the focus on intercourse as the main thing to focus on. Ariana can focus on whatever she wants to focus on, but infidelity is so much more than that. It is so much more than sex. It's obviously a big part of it, but this whole thing of like, okay, how often do you do sex? What's the timeline here? And certainly Ariana could ask for those details. And when they were being attacked, right, on the reunion, it's like, you effed him, you da-da-da. And it's like, yeah, and probably 99% of the motivation towards each other had nothing to do with sex and had everything to do with emotional stuff, feeling safe, feeling free, feeling gratified, feeling like someone loves you, not having the baggage of an ongoing relationship, because it often will feel that way, right? It's like, oh, with Raquel, I feel like everything's fine. She doesn't yell at me. Well, give it 6 months, give it a couple years. And then, like in all relationships, she'll be disappointed in you and she'll be upset and she'll voice that. But in the beginning, you don't have a history of that yet. You don't have enough time together yet for Raquel to be upset at you. So, it's that delusion that somehow, this relationship is perfect. And anyway.
Met his mom, yeah, and she was aware of like the situation.
Where was that?
That was in LA.
You didn't go to St. Louis with them?
No.
So you've never been to St. Louis?
I can't recall, no.
So, yeah. Does she have anyone helping her? Because before going on, it's like, okay, here, are you prepared to tell the whole truth? Particularly when there's evidence? Yikes. And this is, I'll use this as a jumping off point. When I work with cheaters and they are in the process of trying to regain trust, this is almost universal, if not universal, that they will say a version and then in therapy, and the spouse that was cheated on will say, "Is that all the details? Have you told me the whole thing?" "Yes, I've told you." "Are you sure?" "Yes, I've told you the whole thing." And then bits come out, and then we say, "So is that it?" And I'll do my whole thing of just like, now's the time, and you can absolutely answer the question. I don't want to answer right now, and that's not a lie. That'd be frustrating to your partner, but it's better than lying. And they'll, no, that's it. I've told everything. Why would I lie at this point? I've come forward. And then more stuff comes out, and that might happen a dozen times. It's very frustrating because I'm trying to help. I get it. It's normal, but I can have my frustration because I do, because the first 5 couples that I helped with infidelity recovery, I didn't know, the patterns as well as I did eventually. So eventually prior to them even talking about anything, I will give them the groundwork, and I'll say, I don't even know who cheated on who yet, but let me tell you the tendencies. Here are the things, and here are the things that, whoever the cheater is, here are some principles that you need to start thinking of, and here's what I'm going to predict, and so I'm going to do everything in my power to avoid that, because da-da-da. And so if you can listen to me now, da-da-da, I'll do all these things, and then they'll do it again. And people come to therapy because they have problems. That's what I was always annoying my students with, because my students and trainees would sometimes go like, "I don't understand why not listening to me." I'm like, hey, people come to therapy because they have problems, not because they don't have problems. And sometimes you run into those problems and they're tenacious. It's hard. So, deal with it. That's why you're there. It's like a physician being upset that their patients are always sick or something. It's like people come to your physician because they have physical problems. You can't get frustrated with it. You just have to recognize that's why you're here. Anyway, so I get it, but it was frustrating. So it seems like that's happening again. Well, Tom isn't one coming forward. She is. So, yikes. Like, just why would you lie about that? Just tell the whole truth.
You're telling me everything with your face and your actions. Like,
I know.
I'm reading it.
I know. I have a really bad poker face.
So you might as well just say it.
It freaking happened. Yeah.
Okay, so good on the producer to elicit that from her, and good on her for revealing it, because it's not going to do anyone any good and why? What's the point in holding that in?
Like, it ate me alive not to tell her. I mean, I was like, maybe, like, what would Ariana think about, like, having me as an addition? And he was like, no, she would not be into that.
Trouble.
Yeah, because...
Okay, so there was talk about how Tom may or may not have told Ariana that, or may or may not have told Raquel that Ariana and Tom had an open relationship. And, that'll happen. Certainly there's polyamory or non-monogamy and that happens sometimes, where someone doesn't have any libido and they're just like, you know what, a partner of mine, I have no libido, but that doesn't mean you should have no sex. How about you find another situation or whatever? You have conversations about that if you care to. Certainly people with low libido don't have to, but at least that was the impression, or that was the lie or whatever that Tom was feeding to Raquel. And so that's why she, maybe that's why it wasn't as hard for her to do all the things, because she seems to exhibit a fair amount of remorse afterwards. And she just talked about how it was eating her alive. She couldn't tell Ariana. And I wonder if she was tricked by Tom's narrative, and that made her remorse and desperation to come forward subdued. And if she knew the full situation, she would have acted differently. I don't know.
And then also, I'm in love with Tom Sandoval. So, yeah, it didn't seem like that far-fetched of an idea, but it was not something in question. God, he's going to kill me. I just hate lying so much. I hate it.
What happened?
Yeah, her smiling and the sort of teenager-y way that she's expressing this is not helping her case. I think she's doing a lot of good things here by coming forward. I'm guessing she didn't have to do that. And apparently Tom doesn't even know that she's doing this. So there's that. But the fact that she seemingly is taking it pretty lightly and is smiling, I don't know how to take that. Does that mean she actually takes it lightly? I don't think she does. I think she's just nervous and sort of out of her element.
Story that we've agreed on getting straight, and I know that the reason why Tom wanted to lie about it is because it's a really bad look to hook up with someone's boyfriend in their own house.
Yeah, okay, so she's revealing more, and the producer is helping, or manipulating, however you want to put it, by getting her to come clean fully, which was what she was committing to. And now she's exhibiting some of that emotion that I was thinking was happening underneath everything. And that will help, I think, with the audience and maybe with the other cast members. And it's weird, I wonder if, I've seen this before, and I don't know, maybe it would make it twice as worse that happened, but I imagine for Ariana that she's like, by telling me what you had told me prior to revealing this detail, it's not like I didn't hate you and I was disgusted with you. I just now have one tiny more reason to be disgusted with you and hate you. So this perception of the cheaters that, well, I can't tell them that story because that would really make them upset and really hurt their feelings and really make them angry at me. And it's like, probably not, because Ariana seemingly was assuming that she didn't know. I think Ariana knew that she wasn't being told the full story and was assuming that there was a lot of things happening that weren't being told to her. And, wasn't like, well, I'm only kind of really hurt and angry, but now I'm really, So I don't see the point. It's almost like this safe haven that cheaters will have, this delusion of just like, well, I'm still a good person if I don't tell them that, because things will get revealed against their will, right? Because they were discovered, right? So they're just like, well, I need to hold on to these lies because then people won't really hate me. And it's so misguided. It's just so it's like, what's the difference? Ariana is massively hurt, feels massively betrayed, and you holding on to these stories, what's the diff?
When they've gone out of town, especially for like a funeral of all things. So
yeah, it is pretty awful. I see why they would identify that story as something to maybe not reveal. But again, I don't see the point really, and I think it's this self-delusion, this self-trickery that they can preserve some level of self-esteem or integrity or self-respect or, I don't know, some sort of a shred of hope or, I don't know, to not tell a few of the details of the entire story. I'm guessing for Ariana, this will hurt additionally, but I don't think it's not like she was an 8 and then she'll be a 10. I think she's a 10 and with this new story, she's still basically in the 10 zone. You know what I mean?
I don't know. This is fucking killed my soul. I am so sick of lying. I hate it.
Yeah, it looks real to me. In contrast to when Tom cries, which seems to be self-pity, which is okay, but in the absence of pity for others, that's, concerning. I think her tears are when she fully reckons with the pain and the transgression that she has caused. When she's like, oh my God, I just have to face this and the hurt that I have inflicted on other people. I had sex with my friend's boyfriend while she was away at a funeral in their own house. I'm a horrible person. I did a horrible thing. I did a very hurtful thing. I mean, she was at a low place, and then she feels ashamed. She feels bad. She feels empathy, and then she cries. Doesn't make it okay, but at least it's a more human reaction.
I hate being deceitful. It's horrible.
Yeah, I just hope that she learns and grows, maybe take a break from reality TV or something. But something's going on with her that led her to this point, and now she is been given a gift of high motivations to discover about herself and to learn and to grow from whatever it was that was going on with her. The risk, though, is that she will crawl into a hole socially and personality-wise, or drink herself into oblivion, or really go off the deep end with, I don't know, chaos or something, or finding people that hate her because she's like, well, I'm a hateful person, so I deserve to be. Like, there's a Y in the road, or there's a crossroads for her right now, and without support and without good support, things could go down a pretty bad road. But she's been given an opportunity, and I hope that she takes it. I think that's the end of the episode. And yeah, so I'm not going to watch any more of the show, I don't think, unless y'all can direct me in a direction. But I feel like there's not a huge compelling reason for me to go back. Because if I go back, I'd have to watch the whole season. And if I did that, do I have to go back to the beginning of all 10 seasons? Like, I'm up for it if that's a thing, but I don't have time currently. I don't know. I like the show. Even the clips they show of previous things, they're showing us kind of the most dramatic bits, but it has a satisfying feel to it that I like these shows when it feels at least mostly real. I understand that there's fabrications, but it feels better when it's mostly real. And not all the shows that I watch on this channel have as much of that feeling as this one. Now, maybe it was just this season, but anyway, so at the very least, I'm taking a break from this show, and I'll continue to watch the other shows that I watch. But yeah, and thank you all for recommending that I watch it. I didn't even know about the show until a month ago, and a lot of y'all were like, hey, you got to watch this show. And I kind of gauge that whole thing because I get a lot of requests, but when I get an overwhelming request and from a lot of different vectors, from a lot of different people, I'm like, well, maybe this is something I should look into. All right, well, let me conclude. I conclude that it seems that Raquel has a heart and does care enough to feel the remorse and to express it at times. Tom hasn't gotten there yet, seemingly. Ariana is grieving naturally and understandably. She is very, very hurt and very, very distressed. I think much more distressed than she gives than she reveals during the reunion. She revealed a little bit of it, but I seeing that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I think behind the scenes, she is, for all the anger that we saw, she probably has 100 times more pain going on. I totally understand her anger. I understand her perspective. I understand her rigidity. It's valid. It makes sense. It's understandable. I don't think that her accusations are clinically accurate, or I don't know. She knows the individuals better than I do, but I don't know. It just didn't look like it was, in terms of the clinical labels being applied, that it was likely that I would, having assessed these individuals, would agree with those conceptualizations. But that's, a real minor point. I get, and I get the friends being upset. It's just a really painful time for everybody. I kind of worry about Tom, though, given his level of denial and forced self-obliviousness. I wonder about him. Because until he is in this zone, there's no recovery for him. There's no acknowledgement. He's doomed to repeat it as he has in the past, right? And there's something he's running from. There's something that he's in pain about that is too painful, or I don't know. But I do worry about him. With Ariana and with Raquel, although I worry about them, I don't worry as much because they seem to be acknowledging reality. They're in the world. They are feeling the feelings. They are only in denial some of the time, And that means that they have a connection with their needs, and also the ability to be humble, the ability to recognize that they've done something wrong. Raquel, Tom doesn't seem to have that. So how do you learn from your mistakes? How do you grow? How do you cultivate relationships with people? So yeah, I do worry about Tom, but I guess time will tell. And everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really, really do.